A bit about me. I'm a consultant. Primarily, I speak, I run courses. I'm in IT for around 10 years. I have my own company, primarily based in Denmark, originally Polish, a bit in Belgium. Worked with various companies, and also I do triathlon in my free time to kill also a bit body. Big companies which I work with, but it's not too interesting. But okay, why does it matter? What are we talking about? First thing, we already seen GDPR rules, and what does it mean, and how big fines we are getting. We went from around 400 euros to 4 milliard euros within a few years, and right now it's even up to 50 million euro per company. And we have AI boom, and we have more and more around security, data, resilience, and platforms and regulations. So we have different acts. We have AI Act, we have NIS, we have DORA, not Google DORA, not DORA the Explorer, but EU DORA, we have DSA. We have Data Act, so we have plenty to choose from and plenty to cover. So shortly, we're gonna as we have quite limited time, we're gonna briefly mention what does it mean, what should we pay attention, and who's under it actually, because that's also a different aspect, and some of them, they also cover one to each other. So it's not completely out of scope. If you're doing one, you might be also covering the other one at the same time. So we have AI Act, okay. We have some more and more regulation around AI and how can we cover it. We have NIS 2, which is new phase for NIS 1 and security. We have Data Act, which put regulations into how we deal with data ownership, what we can do it as a user, what companies are obliged to. We have DORA, digital resilience, not the Explorer, not the Google one. And then we have DSA as the last one. But why do we care? First one, companies usually don't want to spend too much money. So fines, your employer doesn't want to pay more if it doesn't have to. And 7% of the global revenue, that's quite high. Your deployment pipeline becomes evidence in court. Yeah, so the more of our code and the more of our logs, everything what is user doing, what system is doing can be used in court. We don't really want to deal with it. We want to be, or if we have to, we want to be able to provide data which they require from us in the easy way, and we want to have it documented. Work in dev doesn't work in prod. We deal with it on daily basis. And your 3 a.m. on-call becomes 3 a.m. court hearing. So, well, your incident can be pulled out to the court. And everything should be well documented around it. But we are in advantage. We all are SRE. We all know what to do. We work with databases. So we are not coming up with anything very new, but we now have more regulations around how we work, and what we are required to do to be able to be compliant. Another thing, very high cost of monitoring. Usually everyone is complaining about how much money we spend on logs, how much developers want to do it. Good thing about it, now we have to do it. First thing, AI Act. So, first one, we want to be able to see what rules comply to AI Act, what does it mean for us that it's becoming more legal. So AI Act is the first trial in the world to put AI into frames of the law. We're getting a bit lawyer up. And one thing, some stuff are recommended, some stuff are required. Everything with a red dot is required by AI Act or by any other act or documentation. The blue stuff are recommended, but you don't have to do it. So it came into life in 2024. Some of the stuff are coming required from August of this year, and fully in life it's coming next year. What happened? We're having labeling of the risk labels for the different AI systems. That's mandatory. You have to go through your systems. You have to figure out, is it high risk, is it not? Trails. Again, mandatory. Human overseeing. Yes, you have to review certain stuff by human. This is mandatory to use it in your pipelines. Documentation. We are required to create more documentation, more versioning and so on of data we use around models to train, around how we host our models, and so on. It also comes with a bunch of definitions as, okay, what is AI system and who is under it? But what does it really mean for us? Any software that learns or adapts in production to influence outcomes. So a lot of legal stuff which we don't necessarily understand as engineers, but we have to be able to put it in life. Why does it matter? We now have to figure out what's the process which we use for also other software, how we use it also for AI. So, okay, we need to version our training data and model artifacts. We need to have logs. We need to have some reviews in our CI/CD. So we need to have our AI in scope and models in scope, not free leave. What comes in the risk categories? So we have unacceptable risk, high risk, limited risk, and minimal and low risk. So depending what you are doing, you have different regulations for your AI models. So, highest one, acceptable, unacceptable. You don't want to do social credit scoring. You don't want to do accidental reading of your emotions. Don't do it. We don't want to develop it. It's completely banned. You can get quite high fines for it. Next, high risks. HR screening tools, credit scoring, healthcare diagnostics, smart traffic light system. But not only. You can have another scenario, load balancers that route based on user behavior, recommendation system for essential services. So it's not so straightforward. Here, you already go under regulations. So you're allowed to do it, but there are more regulations to it. What you are required to do, classifying the threat and the use of the cases of high risk, apply full compliance regime. So logs, docs, humans in loop, risk assessments. Then we go to limited risk AI. Chatbots, deepfakes. It's allowed with transparency, with user noticing it, with basic logging. So the regulations are not that hard as to the previous one. So we need to follow the record interaction logs. We need to display clear user notices if the data is used, for example, in chatbots, deepfakes, and so on. But you don't have to, for example, provide explanation to the users and to their limitations. It's not required. And the last one, when the majority of use cases goes, it's the low risk, when there is not as much regulations around. So pretty basic stuff apply for it. Baseline security, baseline GDPR, which goes to everything else. We have few pillars to remember about AI Act. That's risk management, data governance, technical documentation, and human oversight in it. So that's what you should pretty much remember, that we need to figure out what to do with it. Inventory, so we need to classify where our systems are, in which category, and for each of the tool, each of the system, implement logging, implement documentation, train your teams, because the culture and the knowledge doesn't go without teaching, and have a compliance review, maybe someone also who's specialized in the legal or is a legal champion in it. Well, then we have NIS 2, network security for the modern age. We coming with the new version of it. Yeah, we had NIS 1, now we have NIS 2. What changed? Well, we got a bit expanded scope compared to the first one. More sectors are now classified as a critical infrastructure. We are required for 24-hour reporting So notify to authorities if anything happened from day one. We have supply chain security, so you also have to secure your dependencies, libraries, and accounts. We have board accountability, so cybersecurity also goes to the board level, and it's already in life from last year. So if you're not looking into it, time to get it checked. But am I covered? It depends. So probably you're covered if you, in the first part, your service affects more than internal team, you have more than 50 employees or quite high revenue. You are newly included and in extended span if you have SaaS providers, cloud infrastructure, digital service providers. But if you are a startup, you might be also in scope. So some requirements regarding the incident. You need to report within 24 hours. That's a must. Within 1 month from the incident, you need to report detailed report, and you have 2 months to finalize your 2 months report. How many of you doing the incident reports on the 1, 2, 3? That's not too many for 40, 50 people. Another requirement, centralized logging pipeline. What is mandatory from it? So we need to be able to get logs easily accessible by NIS2. War rooms, usually used during the incidents. We are not required to have a war room, but it's a good practice. But having a formal way of handling incidents, that's a must. Legal observer, it's a choice. You can, you might, depends what you're doing, depends what your customer is doing, depends what is it required. And with this comes some regular testing, maintaining exercises. So probably most of you have a disaster recovery in place. Yes? Anyone? Few. That's still not everyone. That's an issue. But you also want to try to gamify it and try out your incidents or possible incidents. So you can have different required scenarios and do it on the regular basis. Next one, we have Data Act. So what do we do with data? Before even AI, we came with more data usage, and with AI, it just boomed over last few years. Data Act comes in life this year, in September, and it comes with certain amount of the requirements. So users own their own data, not the platforms. Usually we want to figure out, we all get surprised, for example, if we download all the data from different platforms we're using on the daily basis, both in private or at work. They have plenty. And on the regular basis, we get notifications that they want to use it to train their models and so on. Data must be portable, so it needs to be easily be able to be moved from one place to another. Real-time access required. So they cannot keep it too long from you. So another one, you cannot be vendor locked. What comes with it? We need to be able to share data. Definitely it's you if you build IoT devices, mobile apps, SaaS platforms, cloud services. If you generate user data, you're covered by Data Act. Another one, you're required to give data within a certain time of the period. So real-time data processing, reasonable time for data export from the systems. Example, you request your data from Facebook or any other big platform. The same, your customer can come and request data which you have of them within your platform. Another one, consent management system. So user and content for data sharing. You need to request consent to be able to search data. There are different ways to be able to implement it in your system. Another thing, you need to provide the user portal or being able for user to request their data and get their data. You can make it more user-friendly or less, that's your choice. But yeah, we recommend to make it more user-friendly. Portability, that's another requirement. But so you need to be able to get data in the JSON scheme and some REST endpoints for each of data type, like users, devices, logs. Another one, DORA. So that's the fourth one, Digital Operation Resilience Act. Not the Explorer, not Google, the EU regulations. One of the most known connected with it is Chaos Monkey, but that's not required. Who is primarily impacted by this? That's financial institutions, banks, payment processors, insurance, crypto exchanges as well. But also, if you're critical ICT provider for any of above, if you, for example, any of above is your customer, you also impacted. And why is the red dot here? Because all of it is required. What is required? Testing, operational resilience testing, third party. You're also partially responsible for it. Incident reporting, as we can see, that's the same in one of the previous one. So they are overlapping. Business continuity plan. What's happening when you are not on? So what's the goal of it? Ensure that all EU financial entities and their critical ICT providers can withstand and respond to recovered from ICT disruptions. We can see quite a lot of it with what is going on right now in the world from certain parts of the world, so it's getting more critical even now. Why it matters? If your Kubernetes cluster, cloud service, or any bank goes down, regulators expect not just a fix, but proof that you're resilient and that you can go back up. We have 5 pillars. So we have risk management, operational resilience, incident reporting, and third-party risks. And as the last one, threat intelligence. So we have risk management, so we have inventory and classification, so we want to be able to know how risky it is, what's the category, we want to assess it, and we want to store it in your code to be able to identify it. We want to test it, so you have different ways of testing it. You have mandatory tests. You have also optional tests as chaos engineering, which is quite far if it's going to maturity in your security. You have RTO and RPO, document recovery time and recovery point objective in the tests report, reporting, deliver test plans, execution result, and lesson learned to the regulators. So you're obliged to be able to deliver whatever happened in your and why the system is going down and who is impacted and what are the consequences of it and how are you recovering from it. And within incident reporting, we have some deadlines. Not all of them are very strict. Some you might be able to specify internal within it, but there are some indications as soon as possible, but no later than end of a next business day after detection. So you might have some internals on top of it that you are doing it within, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. But by the end of the next day, you need to inform them. Then you have report, 3 business days, final rules code, prevention plan, 1 month, what have you learned, and whole legal record, what actually happened from logs, run books, postmortems, and whole documentation connected to it. Third-party risk management and threat intelligence. Well, you also are partially responsible. Who are you using? What software are you using? there is certain rights to audit, data residency, incident notification clauses. You are not required to automate it, but you're required to subscribe to whatever is going on EU cert feed and observe it and within your scene. Last one, not least, Digital Service Act. Your internal tools also matter. Who's impacted? We are impacted from last year, February. Whose matters? Social platforms, marketplaces, cloud platforms, internal tools, internal dashboards and portals with user-generated content. Size threshold, that's something what is good to know, very large online platforms. And everything also small marketplaces, yeah, that's as mentioned, everything would have pretty much user-generated content, it's in scope. Summing, any service exposing user-provided data falls under DSA. Again, we have a bunch of requirements, and which we need to translate what does it mean for us in the tech. Logging everything, aggregate metrics, publishing monthly reports, providing access for people who need to have access and are required to be able to see the logs upon request. Content moderation architecture. What does it mean? We have few stuff coming with it. We want to be able to have, and that's actually optional. That's not something what is mandatory by the Act, but recommended. User redress system, that's here we are half-half. So we need to be able to capture user ID, content ID, reason, and provide this data. We need to be able to resolve and acknowledge stuff within particular timelines. But we are not required for updating users and when the actions are taken, and we are not required to inform them about it. Content decisions. Alerting and monitoring, optional, but well recommended and can save you a lot of time. Inference, storage, logging, that is required for what is going on, including action, including timestamps. Some of it is overlapping, so it's not that it is separate thing, and if you are covered by one, you're not covered by the other, or they completely covering different parts of it. So we have AI Act, which is ensuring that AI systems are safe and ethical. We have data governance, which facilitating share of the data and who's owning it. We have Data Act, which makes IoT available within the EU. But that's not all. We have cross-regulation compliance as well, and we have different categories. So we have multiple laws which apply to the same system, and how can we cover it? So as we can see, for example, logging, almost everywhere required. Monitoring as well. Governance, same. API data, that's different. So very often, if you apply to the rules of one, you might already fulfill the requirements for the another act at the same time. Similarly, with resilience and testing, you here, actually it's only DORA, but very often you require testing or being able to apply, okay, how can we handle the incident, how can we recover, what is disaster recovery plan? So some goes with the other. So there is plan in EU to short term, medium term, and long term. So as we can see, that's just the beginning. There is more to come. There is more to cover. We are covering only the top of the iceberg. And we are not the only one in the EU trying to cover it. We have other parts of the world trying to make something similar or create a copycat legislation as California. You can see it's primarily West and developed countries which are looking to it. But there are also some strategies which are companies applying to be able to be compliant to all of it. So some have the particular jurisdiction, some have unified compliance across the world, Some have EU-first compliance, or they have to have different per market, as very often we can hear about US companies looking into it. We can have some more sample implementation pipeline, how to even look into it, because there's a lot of information which we need to process and being able to apply to our systems. And to be able to do it with the head-in, we need a certain plan. So first, generally assess, look what are easy wins, look what you need to do, and automate where you can with a long-term plan and have a compliance reporting and people responsible for it and processes. War stories and lesson learned, that's something good to have and learned out of it. Some compliance matrix, which is good to be able to check, and we have different categories of it because you're gonna have both operational, business, and technical. And if you want or not, you have to look a bit into all the categories, but depends in which act you're looking for, it might vary. Some technical questions which is good to ask yourself and your team, and process questions and business questions. As we know, even if your tech is great and your process sucks, it doesn't go well together for the business values. And main takeaway, we have a lot of regulations and restrictions, and now it's also touching DevOps systems, Kubernetes, and cloud native. So it's good to know. Start from the basics, which we are all probably already doing, more or less, from logging, audit trails, some human interactions. And do your best to try to stay compliant and it shouldn't be visible to users and developers, but it should be there for being secure for all of us. If you want to stay in contact, you primarily find me on LinkedIn. That's some tools, and thank you.